Hey class, welcome back. We're going to finish up section 3.2 today. So this is again about the compound statements with the connectives such as and, or, if then, if and only if. So in the last lesson, when we put those together, we just had two simple statements and we put those together. Well, now sometimes you might get three of those statements, or sometimes you want to combine two of those together to make a point, and then it is combined with another part. So we're going to talk a little bit today about putting more than just two simple statements together, and also how do you separate that English wise with a comma, and then symbolically in math, we're going to use parentheses. So this is just a short continuation on your notes. I think we're down at number 11. It says, what do parentheses mean in symbolic logic? So they simply mean that it's going to be a grouping symbol, and it's going to be those things inside the parentheses go together. And if there's something else outside of the parentheses, there's a pause between the group of parentheses and the other. So we're going to start off here right with number 8 in your book. I'm sorry, this is not number 8. This is example 6, and it is on page 117 in your book if you're following along. So the first one here, it says P is she is wealthy. Q, she is happy. So we want to write in words the negation of P and Q, the negation of P and Q, and the negation of P or Q. So if you look at A and C, these grouping symbols mean that those two things, P and Q, P or Q, are going to go together. And then you negate the whole thing. So just like in the order of operations, you want to do what's inside the parentheses first and then move your way out. You're not going to distribute this. So don't say that's not P, not Q. You're just going to do what's in parentheses. So the easiest way to say the negation of something is to say it's not true. So we can simply say it's not true P and Q. It's not true P or Q. Up here in B, it's different. There is no set of parentheses, so we are only negating the P part. And so we would say it's not true P or Q happens. So the answers to this look like this. It is not true that she is wealthy and happy. It is not true that she is wealthy or happy. So those are the two with the grouping symbols for the parentheses. However, remember B doesn't have a grouping symbol, so it would simply say she is not wealthy. That's negating the P part, and then the Q part, and she is happy. Okay. So you guys can try checkpoint 6. Go ahead and pause your video and then come back and check what you got. Before you do that, make sure you're watching. Again, A and C have grouping symbols. B does not. Also look at the C one, this symbol. If you remember, it's the conditional. It's an if, then. So we want to negate if Q, then P. So you want to say it is not true there. Okay, go ahead and pause and then come back. Okay, so now that you've come back, here's the two sentences. He earns $105,000 yearly. He is often happy. So again, the negation symbol was outside the parentheses. So we just simply said it's not true that he earns $105,000 yearly and that he is often happy. I'm going to jump to the C one. Also, it is not true, but this one was the if. So it says that if he is not happy, then he earns $105,000 yearly. So we still said it's not true for the whole thing, and then we wrote the if-then statement. And then B simply is negating just the Q part. So it says he is often happy, and he earns $105,000 yearly. I am so sorry. I'm going to have to fix that. He is not. Oh, look, we're having to use that caret as an English sentence part. Okay, he is not often happy. Negate the Q. and he earns $105,000 yearly. Okay, so here is 7. This one is throwing in the third sentence. This one says, a student misses lecture, a student studies, a student fails. So in words, we want to group together Q and, not P. But look, a whole parenthesis is in front of the arrow. That means that this is the if, right? So this is the if part. And then over here, negate R, that's the then part. Okay. So if and then. And then on the B, we want Q and then the grouping symbol. So in this one, the arrow states that right before it is going to be the if. And the right after it is going to be the R. So this one is going to say Q, comma, and if not P, then not R. Okay, so if we write those, this is what we have. Together in grouping symbols, this is our pause. And so in English, for our pause, we put this comma to say that group goes together and then the other group goes together. So it says, if a student studies and does not miss lecture, comma, then the student does not fail. So all of those things go together as the if. You have to do both of those. Down here in this one, the Q is by itself and the rest of it is in parentheses. Therefore, the breaking is right here. And so that's where our comma goes after the first part. Okay. So it would say a student studies. And if a student does not miss lecture, then the student does not fail. Okay. So those grouping parentheses are showing the break in a sentence, and that is trying to say that one section goes together and the other section goes together. It's just sometimes it's just a single section. All right, so you guys can pause your video here and try your checkpoint 7. Checkpoint 7 in your book is at the top of page 119. Okay, so welcome back. This one says the plant is fertilized, the plant is not watered. Make sure you saw that in there in the original. And then R is the plant wilts. So when we write these, here's our break. Here's the parenthesis grouping. Here's our break. Here's the grouping parenthesis on the other side. So that's where our comma goes. Grammatically, we need to make sure it's in there correctly. So it says, if the plant is fertilized and watered. Because remember, this one said it's not. Okay, so and watered, comma, then it will not wilt. This one, the break is after the first part, so the plant is fertilized, comma, and if it is watered, because remember up here it said not, then it will not wilt. Okay? All right. So what happens when parentheses are not present in the statements before and after the most dominant connectives should be grouped? So on page 119, there's a table 3.9, and it shows this maybe in a better way than what I've got here. But this is the dominance used symbolically. So you would do biconditionals, which is your double arrows, if and only ifs. Then you would do conditionals, and that would be your if-then statements. And then you would do conjunctions and disjunctions. And so ands and ors have the same level. So what we're looking here, and then you do negations. So what you're looking here is if there's no parentheses, which things are going to go together? So you would put a biconditional together. You would put a conditional. You would break them up here at these points. So let's look at this. In number 8, it's all the way at the bottom, page 119. It says, I failed the course, I study hard, I passed the final. Now, this one says, I do not fail the course if and only if I study hard and I pass the final. Okay, so there's no grouping parentheses in that. So when we write it, we have to decide which one of these things is going to be the break. And so I look for, here's if and only if, and here's an and. So when I'm going to jump back over here. So which one of those is a higher rank? The biconditional is, right? The if and only if. And so when I come back over here, that means that this is my break. So here's my break in the sentence, which means that's where the comma is going to go. So if I put a comma there, this part only has one simple statement, but over here on the right side, I study hard and I pass the class. That's the part that has two, and so that would be the part where the parentheses go around, okay? So it would say, I do not fail the course, comma, if and only if I study hard and I pass the final. So the B one down here says, I do not fail the course if and only if I study hard, comma, and I pass the class. So this one already has the comma in it. That means this is the break. And notice this first section is the part that has two simple statements in it. So that is the part that I would go in parentheses, and then you would have the rest of it. Okay, so I'm gonna erase this, and then we have to actually write it in symbols. So, well, actually, maybe I'll leave those up there so that you can see it. I do not fail the course is going to be negation P. I study hard is going to be Q. I pass the final is going to be R. If and only if, double arrow, and caret. And then we go back, and instead of reading it all from left to right, we're just going to set a group of parentheses around this second set, which would be here and here. So that's how you write that symbolically once you figure out where the parentheses are going to be. Now the second one already has the comma. We figured out what parentheses are going to go around this group of two, and so we're just going to write it again. So I do not fail the course is going to be negation P. I study hard is going to be Q. I pass the final is going to be R. If and only if is going to be double arrow. And then and is going to be caret. But again, remember the parentheses this time is going to go around the first two. So it would be around this one and this one. So even though these sentences say the exact same thing, it's the pause of where the comma goes grammatically that makes it, oh, if this is if and only if, this part has to happen. This part has to happen. On this one, it's an if and only if inside the group and R is going to happen. Okay, so go ahead and pause and try your checkpoint 8 and then come back and check it. All right, so here's your checkpoint 8. If there is too much homework or a teacher's boring, then I do not take the class. And so those are your 3 statements. And then you have to figure out which one has the higher dominance because there's no comma. And so it's the if this, then that. And the other word here is or. And so if then has a higher dominance above or, which means your break is going to be if then. So if and then is going to be in the parentheses, in the parentheses, and then this I do not take the class is going to be broken up. So when you write it, you're going to have P or Q. In your grouping symbols, parentheses. Now remember, this was an if then. That means that this was the if, and then comes the arrow. I do not take the class is going to be negation of R. All right, and then this sentence, B, already has the comma, so here's the break. There is too much homework. All right, that's just a P. Or, and then it says, if a teacher is boring, then do not take the class. So since this is the break, everything at the end of the sentence has two things, so it would go together with your parentheses. So we would get Q, arrow, negation R. In your grouping symbol. All right. So this section was just adding on to that other one, but you have to figure out where the parentheses go. So you're going to practice these on page 121, number 60 through 64 evens. So it's just a few of them. And then 69 through 78 multiples of 3. But you do have to write some sentences. So this one may take you a little bit of time and figure out where the comma goes and where parentheses would go when you're writing the symbols. Okay. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.